Yo, Healing with Sam, episode 24. Little update on where we're at. I think it's been a couple of weeks since the last one. I think the last video made, I was talking about, I just started taking the drugs, maybe. This new medication. Little update on how that's going, the process with that. It's been interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's like, so I started, it's supposed to be 2 tablets a day, every day. And it's because I'm weaning on, because I've had problems. When I tried this medication or a similar one in the past, right, it causes issues with the liver. And so I'm weaning on. So rather than having 2 tablets every day, I started off having 1 tablet Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I've done that for 3 weeks now. Well, 2 weeks. And then last week was a bit. So the first 2 weeks did that. And after 1 week, right, so I'd only taken 4 tablets, and this is wild. I don't know what they're putting in these tablets, but it's some serious shit. After just taking the 4 tablets, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Monday, my lung function had gone up 15% to the best it's been in over 2 years. The drastic reduction in the amount of mucus, sitting on my lungs, how much I'm having to clear every day, and because it was so elevated before as well, like the last few months I've been bringing up so much mucus, and all dark green and horrible and thick, and it just went like way less and clear and thinner and like so unbelievable, right? And I feel so much better with that, within myself as well, like my face just looks better, I just look better, like, and people are saying like, oh, you look better, so that was crazy. That's quite crazy. Just that instant. Oh yeah, this is how it is now. So I did that for 2 weeks, and then last week was a bit different because I went to a festival last weekend, and so obviously with the effects of this medication on my liver, I'm trying to be sober, right? So no drinking, no drugs. Not that I was particularly, I don't drink and do drugs a huge amount, but for the last few months, I've been drinking a bit more, where once or twice a week, I'd be drinking, and drinking quite a lot. Like, if I drink, I end up drinking a lot. And so it was like, okay, I have to stop, right, And that's a significant change to make in your life. Sobriety is an idea which I've flirted with for a little while, and I've felt that that's probably going to be my path, certainly, to a decent extent anyway. And then obviously leading up to these meds, it was kind of leading up to starting to take them, it was this recognition of, okay, like, I'm gonna have to make this change. I'm gonna have to, certainly for a while at the start anyway, whilst I wean on to these meds and, try and give my liver the best chance of being able to tolerate them, it was necessary, right, to not be drinking, not be doing any drugs, and just doing everything I can to hopefully be able to allow this medication to do the work that it is doing on my lungs, right? And now that I've experienced like that shift on my lungs and how much difference it is making, certainly that's the way to go. That's very clearly the way to go. But that's still a shift, right? That's still a process, and not an insignificant one. I've had relationship with drugs, right, of the different kinds. So like, that is, what would be the word? I don't know, but it's not nothing, right? I've never been someone who doesn't have any issue with these things, right? Obviously weed was the big thing for me. I've never been addicted to anything other than weed. I was very much addicted to weed, and that was obviously the most damaging thing I could have been doing, right? Smoking. That I did myself a lot of damage, as I've spoken to here, and probably a lot of why my lung function had dropped so much, and I'd got to the point where I had got to, and have got to, like recently. A big part of that, of course, will be smoking on and off for 15 years. And, smoking, as I said, like, I would go through periods of smoking to the point where I literally had to stop because there was no other choice, because I could not breathe anymore, So it's like, and drinking, I've never been addicted to alcohol in that way. But I've always had a decent drinking habit, right? Since I was young. When I was 16, they told me I have the liver of an alcoholic. You know, the damage, the scarring on the liver, just from the disease. And from the age of 16, I've done a lot of drinking, you know, obviously, like, particularly those years, like 16 to 21. And in uni, you know, I did a lot of drinking. And yeah, never in a way, in uni it was obviously more, but after that, never in a way where it's kind of like a regular habit, but just, you know, if I drink, I'm drinking. Nothing crazy, British culture, right? You know, if we're drinking, we're drinking. And I can drink a decent amount, right? So, and more so, and there's obviously periods of more and less, but the last few months I've been drinking more. And was in the habit, and just kind of the places I was going, the situations I was in, was enjoying a drink, enjoying getting drunk. Yeah. So that was a shift, that was a switch to make. And at the start, like the first week, I remember the first weekend of going to the yard where I hang out on a Saturday, and I've been drinking there recently, right? And I get there, and the sun's out. Dom and Jay, like, beer? Have a beer? And I was fuming. I was so, like, I was besides myself. They're getting a beer, enjoying the beer, and it was just so, just like, you know, I was angsty. I was frustrated. I was just like, and then went round Jack's to have a barbecue in the sun, and we're drinking beers. And I was just like, it was proper bothering me. I couldn't sit still. Like, Jack had a dartboard in the garden, and I was just like, I had to keep just going back and forth, throwing the darts just to be doing something. I was just, it's pissing me off. Part of that was, I think, just, it's the frustration of, I don't want to give up drinking, right? I mean, it's not particularly my choice. It's a choice that I'm having to make, and so I'm making that choice, but it's not what I want. I don't want to have to give up drinking, right? So I don't like that, for one. I don't like doing what I don't want to do, right? I don't like that. And then also, yeah, just the habit, right? That habit of being in a situation and like, want a beer. And then also the other aspect of it, and this became very clear in the festival, right? If I'm in a social situation, my tendency is to close up, right? And to just shut down a little bit in some situations. And so obviously drink and drugs is how you open back up, right? So that's a thing as well connected to that. But at the barbecue then, I was like, let's go get some 0% beers. And that helped. That was great. These 0% beers, I'm getting used to these now, right? I'm enjoying the 0% Peronis. And that made a big difference just to have something, you know, just to have something in your hand and to sip and to just like, okay, everything's okay. You know, just that kind of just gives you that. And that, yeah, that was fine. And so then the next weekend, I can't remember what happened the next weekend, I was at the yard again, and it felt less kind of, the urge was there to want to drink, but not so bad, and it was okay. I think the sun wasn't out, so that helped. Obviously when it's sunny, you know, a beer is nice. But yeah, 0% is going well with that. And at this point now, 3 weeks down the line, or like, yeah, 3 weeks, and after the festival last weekend, with the drinking, I'm at a good point. Like, I feel like, I'm kind of getting used to it. I'm kind of getting over it. Just have a couple 0% beers if I'm in a situation. Like, I was out with a load of people at a bar by the sea. Sun's out last weekend. The weekend just gone. And just had a few 0% beers, and it was cool. It was fine. Like, you know, I wasn't really feeling a massive urge. And then, the next day at the yard, everyone sends out drinking. I wasn't bothered at all. I was just like, didn't even think about it. So I'm in a good place with that. That's cool. I can get with that. The festival was different, right? It was 2 weeks in. It was 2 weeks into this at this point, like, and I was still kind of like, you know, resisting, right? And still hoping, like, oh, maybe I can just dabble here and there, maybe just have a little bit here and there, and kind of just like, and so I was kind of battling with myself before, because I had some drugs left over from the last festival, and I was like, should I take them? And I was very much thinking, just don't take them, because I'll know I'll do them if I take them, like. But I ended up taking them with me, and I was just thinking, like, if I don't take them, I'm just going to be pissed off thinking I should have taken them the whole time. So I'll just take them, and then it's there, and then maybe I do, maybe I don't, whatever. Like, obviously 2 hours into the festival on the first evening, I'm like, well, yeah, just have a little thing. And this very much tied into, again, in a situation, lots of people closing up, right, and not being open and able to connect. And this, you're at a festival, right? So it's the experience you're there for. And this is the thing as well, is like this switch, this shift to sobriety. It's asking you to change your experience of things, right? It's a different experience to be in these different social situations and to be sober, particularly for me at least anyway, because of that experience of just. And that's the work, right? That's the lesson that's available for me, is to get myself to a place now where I don't need anything. I don't need any drink or drugs to just, come to being open, connecting and loving with people in those situations, right? And so that's the opportunity I have before me, and that is the way I'm looking at it now. But at this festival, right, I was still very much, pissed off about trying to be sober, pissed off that I'm just in my thing and not open and connected and not having the experience I want to have at the festival experience, right? And I was just like, I just have a cider. It was a nice sunny day. They had some nice ciders. I was like, I'll have a couple ciders and I'll have a little bit of the MDMA and a little bit of the ketamine. And so it became a test of moderation. So I just had like 2 beers, a few keys of Mandy, a few keys of Ket. It was interesting just watching that, right, and that addictive nature. As soon as you just have that little bit, it's like, whoa, more. Managed to keep it moderate, which was a success in itself, right? Not the ultimate success. I come away from the weekend feeling like, no, yeah, I did all right. I'm quite happy with that. I didn't fail. I spoke to NASA yesterday, and she was like, no, you failed. You're a failure. I was like, well, yeah, true, but there's lessons learned. But yeah, so then the next morning, then after that, I woke up and had this little rash on my ankles, which is how it started. So the first time I took these drugs, when I took part in the trial 7 years ago, come out in this crazy rash head to toe, and so I had to stop. And I had this little rash on my ankles, and I was like, oh shit. And so I was like, all right, I best just not. Right, that's out. That's off the cards. Nothing. Right, got to be sober. And I was a little bit worried about it, but so was trying to be sober. Then ended up doing acid. Which I haven't done in 10 years. But it was just, again, it was bothering me, just and it's just a constant thing, and just there's the people I knew had some acid, and I looked up online, acid and its effects on the liver, and apparently it's fine on the liver, it doesn't cause any issue with the liver, it's not toxic in any way. And so I was like, oh, go on then, I'll have a bit of acid. So that was cool, that was a nice experience. Quite intense, obviously, but it was good. I kind of just took away then that kind of urge, need to have something, right? And so I had a good night with that. Woke up the next morning, rash was gone. I was like, ah, cool. But then I'm thinking, I could get away with a little bit of MDMA again tonight, because I still had a bit left. So did, and then ended up doing more that night. I was kind of just like, it's last night, fuck it. I got a bit into fuck it kind of mode then, that last night with the MDMA. That was the biggest failing of the weekend. Woke up the next morning and rash again. But it passed the next day, luckily. But I come away from that, I was like, all right, just no, let's just keep it sober. Let's keep it fully sober. I'm not too disappointed with myself. It was a festival 2 weeks into trying to be sober, and with all of those things, I know what I'm like, I know. So I wasn't too disappointed. Could have been better, could have been worse. Seems to be okay. My liver seems to be okay. But yeah, I was feeling my liver then though, a little bit last week. And so I was supposed to up the dose to 1 tablet every day. But I was like, I'm just going to keep it the same, just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But then it ended up taking them the 2 days, and then had some liver pain on Friday when I was out with people and just had a few 0% beers. I don't know if it was just that, just something to do with that. But I had those few 0% beers and then was driving home and just felt pain in the liver, whereas before the few weeks it had been a little bit of discomfort. You can kind of just feel it was more like, oh no, there's pain there, which was interesting. I don't know why, but yeah. So then I was like, right, let me just wait till next week now. And so the pain was there a bit Saturday morning, but then passed. And so yeah, Monday, yesterday, started again. I'm gonna have one tablet every day this week and see how that goes. My blood results from my liver have been fine every time. Elevated a little bit. One of the levels of whatever they look at, something about enzymes in the liver, I don't know. But yeah, so all in all, going pretty well, you know. It definitely could have been worse. I seem to be tolerating them okay, having good effect on the lungs, getting used to being sober. That was always going to be a process, but yeah, I'm feeling quite good about that now. Got another festival in another couple of weeks. Definitely won't be doing any drugs, won't be taking anything. I'm going to be very much just, I'm there, I'm sober, and just accepting the reality of festivals are going to be a different experience for me now, right? It's not going to be late nights getting fucked up and having an amazing time with everyone. Can I welcome myself into experiencing that without drugs? Like, yes, but that will be a process, right? I'm not going to just jump straight into being able to have that same experience sober. That's the reality of it. I won't. But yeah, it'll just be another opportunity to continue that journey towards that. And so, is what it is. I'm sure I'll be there pissed off, like debating, should I just do something? But yeah, hopefully. The plan is very much just sober. So yeah, interesting. That's where I'm at. That's what's happening. The emotional process, the ancestral emotional process on my mother's side continues. Slow down a bit. Other stuff coming up for me at the minute, more present stuff. But that's still there and playing out and evolving in interesting ways. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes this week. Taking one tablet a week. Hopefully my liver's okay with that. And then, yeah. So all in all, pretty chilling. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're enjoying the ride. Mother, father, don't have a go at me. I know my dad's going to be like, why are you doing it? Leave it out, daddy. I've told myself it's all good. Sober now. All the best to everyone. Love to all. Have a good one.